All right, third graders, we are going to work more on character traits. And yes, we have done this before, but that is okay. We are revisiting it. So last week we talked about two types of character traits, and that would be external character traits and internal character traits. Okay. So remember that traits are adjectives that describe a character. External means on the outside of the body that you can physically see, and internal means inside the body that you can't actually see. So here is a slide about external. These are physical traits, what you can observe and see on the outside. For example, blonde hair, black eyes, green flower shirt, and short hair. Internal are personality traits that you cannot see. Readers need to look inside and analyze the characters. So you're thinking about their thoughts, their dialogue, their feelings, and their actions. Think of that fast chart that we would do during reading. All right, here is Kennedy. So I'm going to go ahead and read this little blurb to you. You can follow along with me. Kennedy has always loved dogs. She had always had one in her home, and if she or her mom found a lost dog, they would always take it in, feed him, and give him a home until his owner came looking for him. Several owners never showed up, so Kennedy and her family just kept the dogs. Every summer, she volunteered at the Humane Society, and instead of birthday presents, she always asked people to donate to the local dog shelter. Now, if I had to think about her character traits, her internal character traits, I would say that she's a very caring person. She is very generous and she is selfless. She definitely does not care about those birthday presents. She would rather have the dogs get the things that they need, which is amazing of someone, especially as young as her. Okay, moving on to Benjamin. There was nothing Benjamin wouldn't do. If there was a hill, he would climb it. If there was a bike, he would ride it. If there was a roller coaster, he would conquer it. If there was a bug, he would let it crawl on his arm. The only problem was that Benjamin knew that everyone thought he would do anything, so he was not always kind to others who weren't willing to take the same risks. If someone agreed to do something risky with him, he would tap his foot and look at his watch until they got up the courage to do it. Oh. Okay, well, I can tell he's very adventurous and he's a risk taker right off the bat. But then towards the bottom, when he says that if anybody agrees to do it, then he's going to just tap his foot, look at his watch until they finally do it, meaning that he's like, okay, any day now. So he's very impatient and a little bit rude. So those would be Benjamin's character traits. Moving on to Caroline. The day that Caroline walked into the classroom, her teacher knew she would bring an extra something special to the class. She was always laughing and telling jokes, even though she could never quite get her work done. She was too busy smiling and being everyone's friend. Everyone loved to be around Caroline, and she always had a group of friends to sit with at lunch and hang out with at recess. Mrs. Smith had never met anyone quite like Caroline. So I can tell that she's a very outgoing person. She's obviously friendly with all of those friends around her. She's funny because it says that she likes to tell jokes. And then I would say at the very last sentence when it said Mrs. Smith has never met anyone quite like Caroline, she is also unique. All right, moving on to Leah. What are Leah's character traits, internal and external? Leah's mom just didn't know what to do with her anymore. Anytime she asked her to do something, she rolled her eyes and walked away. Leah was always doing something she wasn't supposed to. One night, her mom had found her texting her friends past midnight. She had hidden her phone in her socks before heading off to bed, I should say. Her teacher had called her mom to tell her that she had been making fun of other kids and telling them they couldn't even look at her. Her mom just didn't understand what had happened to her sweet baby girl. Well, if anybody rolls their eyes and walks away to any sort of adult, that is disrespect. I would also say that because she snuck her phone in her socks and then was texting her friends past midnight, that she is sneaky. And then I would also say that she's kind of a bully when she's telling other kids that they can't even look at her. And that just doesn't make sense. She's just being kind of rude. All right, moving on to Ryan. What are Ryan's character traits? From the time Ryan was a young boy, he knew he wanted to be a doctor. He did his best in every class he took so that he could get into the college of his choice. He didn't have many friends, but that was probably because he spent all of his free time studying and watching shows about medicine. If you interrupted him during a study session or one of his shows, he would glare at you and ask you to please go away. He had never been happier than on the day he was accepted into Harvard College, where he could begin his formal studies to become a doctor. Nothing changed, and he kept on working his heart out each and every day of his life. Ryan was a sought-after doctor all across the country. Well, at the beginning, it sounded like he was motivated and very hardworking, but then if he gets mad and glares at people and asks people to go away. And granted, yes, you shouldn't be interrupting him, but that tells me that he's a little bit grumpy. Okay? All right, moving on to Fred. This is our last one. Even though people tried to make friends with Fred, he always felt like they weren't really his friends. Therefore, poor Fred didn't have any friends, and he doubted that he ever would. I'm sorry, but Peach is playing with a little toy in the background. He spent his days working by himself and his nights watching television with his family. He felt like he would never meet anyone who truly understood him. One day, a new boy moved in next door. He asked Fred if he wanted to play outside. Fred waited 5 minutes after the new boy said he would be there. And when he didn't show up after those 5 minutes, Fred stomped off back into his house, thinking he would never have a friend. Little did he know, the new boy had gone inside to get them both lemonades. Oh, well, that was nice of that little boy. So I can tell that Fred is lonely. He is also very doubtful. He doesn't have a lot of confidence. He feels like he's never going to make a friend, and then when he actually somewhat makes a friend, he just kind of gives up. So it's a little bit sad. So hopefully Fred goes back outside and realizes that the new boy actually got them lemonades. All right, go ahead and go back to Google Classroom and see what you need to do next.